And so the question continues. What the heck is this team? We're going to try to figure it out. As we have been all year, we're darn near at the halfway point, and we're still asking, what the heck is this team? On the DLLS Rangers podcast. Yeah, you know, saving the season may still be a little bit overstating it, and yet somehow when you have games like last night, it feels like this is a season on the brink. Hi there. Welcome into the DLLS Sports Studios. That's where you find me. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast, and you find Jeff Wilson in Baltimore as he gets ready to head to the ballpark today for Game 2 of this series. And Jeff, you know, last night's game, and we've talked about this on the show before. By the way, Kat's here. We're thrilled to have the Queen back in her spot. And but we talked about this on the show one other time. When it got to be 1-0, I was like, that's it. Game over. And I must admit, it wasn't quite as strong last night, but something about watching, you know, pouring over those first 3 innings, it just felt to me like, dang it, 1-0's a lot for this team to overcome tonight. Obviously, ultimately, that would have been enough.
Yeah, you know, and at 4-0, it was definitely over. But the at 1-0, you just had to look at the Rangers at bats. They just weren't good. They were quick outs, you know, swinging at the first or second pitch. You know, and a lot of times the pitcher dictates that if he's throwing a lot of strikes. But they also swung at some pitches that they had no choice but to beat into the ground. You know, just things that are common with this team when in games that they're just not going to produce. There's a pattern now, and yeah, the feeling is when you see what you see for what was the first 5 innings offensively, it's like, okay, nothing's happening tonight. Just might as well pack it up and go home. And that ultimately, everybody could have done that. As it was, they let this guy Rogers, who, you know, good changeup and you know, mid-90s velocity, you know, left-handed, which gives him trouble. Okay, he's not a Cy Young candidate, all right, but he looked like Tarek Skubal last night, for crying out loud. And you know, it's just another frustrating night at the ball yard, and the outcome really was pretty much dictated by the way the offense was performing. You could have predicted what was going to happen. Now, I really thought that our guy Patty Corbin pitched fine. You know, he made 2 bad pitches, both of them to Jackson Holliday, and he's not a guy you make bad pitches to. At bat when Holliday hit the 3-run homer in the 5th, the 3rd pitch, it was a cutter that was just off the plate, and Corbin was surprised that he took the pitch because in his first couple at bats he had swung at sliders that were further off the plate, so he thought a cutter would be fine. So it wasn't. It was a close pitch that Phil Cuzzy, who typically has a big strike zone, didn't bite on, and it really changed the outcome of that at bat. Because if Corbin goes ahead 1-2 in the count there, it's just a different thing. So anyway, I can't blame him. You know, the offense, as I mentioned in my story last night, that the outs were so quick,
yeah,
that Corbin wasn't able to, you know, get off the mound and hose off or whatever he does, go into the clubhouse to get some AC and take a couple breaths, because by the time he would have gotten to the clubhouse, there probably already been 2 outs. It's just ridiculous how quick those innings were. And these guys have to realize that. They have to understand what their pitcher's going through. I mean, it was the same for both teams, as Corbin pointed out. Rogers ended up going 8 innings. All right. Corbin has pitched in DC, which is right down the road, and also can get really, really, really steamy. But I thought for sure he wore out in the 5th and definitely the 6th. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that the offense was not giving him a chance to rest.
Yeah, it's amazing. We've talked about it a lot, but this is a clear case where the offense had a negative effect on the pitching, right? I mean, that is very difficult to put a pitcher in that situation, as they did with Patrick Corbin last night. And to your point, yes, he's pitched in the heat in Washington, D.C. before, but it still affects you every single time, and you need to have those longer at-bats to accentuate your point. In the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning combined, the Rangers saw 22 pitches. Now, I know Corbin was out by then, but 22 pitches in 3 innings when you're trying to mount a 6-run comeback, you've just got to, we've talked about this recently, maybe as recently as Sunday, you've got to put together longer, stronger, harder, diligent at-bats. And right now that doesn't seem to be a part of this team's DNA or a part of its narrative at all, and maybe it's something they can continue to get better at. I will say this about the Holiday home run, and of course, he had 3 hits and a career high, again, short career thus far, but a career high 4 RBI in the game. And after that home run, Jeff, he immediately went to the clubhouse and celebrated by shaving for the first time. Does this kid have a baby face or what? Man, it's like he came around those bases. I'm like, who hit that? He's so young and he's got so much potential.
Yeah, and his brother may be the first overall pick.
Yeah.
Matt Holliday, the former MLB player, and his wife have got some good genes. If they were Secretariat, they'd be putting Matt Holliday out to stud. But yeah, left-handed hitter, can play, the non-first base, the 3 other positions in the infield, sweet stroke, so young, and right in the middle of or right at the top of an offense for a team that was expected to contend in the East. His double was down the line, right field line. His homer was to left center. And Corbin wasn't upset with the pitch. It was a 3-1 count, and he needed. There's a right-handed batter on deck who had struck out twice, by the way, but he wanted to get the lefty, and the fastball didn't go quite where he wanted it. And so it was a good hitting by a guy who was a top prospect in the game and is going to be a star with the Orioles for a long time.
It was, and it was another example of the same frustration that the Rangers fans have been feeling. I know we got Rangers fans watching. Go ahead, jump in the chat and let us know what you think, and let us know your frustration, and we'll be glad to comment on your comments. Also, coming up in the second segment of the program, we are going to talk about sort of the psychology of this team. There's a few areas I want to go and pick Jeff's brain. We haven't talked about this off the air yet, but it'll be interesting to get his thoughts about some of my thoughts on the psychology of this team, where it sits psychologically right now, which doesn't appear to be good. At that point, Jeff may duck away. He's chasing a story for us, too, so we'll let him go work the sources and do his story chasing, but he'll likely be back. And what the heck, he may break a story right here if it happens. So stay tuned for that. If not, fourth segment will be the cleanup segment as always. So, but anyway, we encourage you to chat along with us and let us know what you think. I do think, Jeff, I said this to Abs upstairs. We were talking before the show, and I feel like, among the fans right now, Jeff, we've reached critical mass as far as the tune-out factor goes, right? I mean, there's just so many games that look so similar. I think fans' frustration level is higher than it would be if, let's face it, they were more competitive in these games.
Yeah, it's just what like I said, there's a pattern here. Why keep watching uh, if you can predict the outcome? Now, every baseball game is different. That is something I firmly believe, that every baseball game is a snowflake. Something it's different somehow, some way, even when the results look the same. And yes, I guess the difference last night was the pitcher who did it, but it's still kind of a blizzard when it's bad. There's lots of familiar things that just put people in a sour mood. And I'm sitting there watching the games with you guys, so I understand. I don't want to see shutout after what was that, the 10th time the Rangers have been shut out this season. And this might have, other than that Toronto game, this might have been the least competitive one. It just again, the at bats were so quick, and the one time they did mount a rally, it was with 2 outs, and the guy who was batting cleanup, or batting third, I guess, was Marcus Semien yesterday, and so he comes in there and it's a weak little fly ball. So it's just frustrating when they have the chances, they don't cash them in for the most part, and that's been plaguing this team throughout the season. And until they show otherwise, this is who they are. We can keep talking about, is an offense coming around? They might have a good week and be like, oh yeah, they're back. And guess what? They're not back.
No.
And the fact that it's 9 guys at the same time, that are slumping and not doing anything, it's just unbelievable. You just don't see this when a team can just collectively all have similar crappy at bats and crappy results. There was some talk about hard hit balls, and Wyatt Langford hit a ball at like 111 miles per hour last night, and there were a couple others over 100 miles per hour, but right at them, atom balls, if you want to call it. But there weren't enough of them, and sometimes it doesn't take one of those. I mean, sometimes you just need a little flair, and that'll get something going. The Orioles had a bunt hit last night. That was the last batter that Corbin faced, and you just don't see the Rangers trying to do those things either. It's like, go up there and swing and swing and swing early. Try something. Try to put down a bunt. Take a pitch. If you're going to swing at a strike, and it's a quality strike, it's not your pitch, you got to give the guy a chance to make a mistake.
Yeah, and it's just like I say, it's that sort of repetitive thing that bothers people so much, right? It's like you don't. I want to say it. You feel somewhat bleak as soon as they get behind, and I was thinking about it last night as I'm watching, Jeff, and I'm like, gosh, I mean, at any level, you're like, okay, it's just one. And I do think Patrick Corbin felt pretty good about that. What was it, the 4th when they got the one? And he's like, yeah, I mean, because there was a string of hits right there, and he held them to 1, right? And so, right. You have reason to feel good, and yet it was not like I felt like I could shout to the troops, all right, guys, it's only 1, because I was like, that's a lot, It's not only 1 to this team.
And they were the Orioles weren't doing much either those first 3
No,
innings. Really, they not at all. Corbin was in control, and 7 pitches, 7 strikes. I think he retired the first 8, and then there was the ball by the number 9 hitter that Haggerty slid to catch and just missed, that ended up as a double. Then Holiday followed. So I mean, he had no reason to think that it would turn out the way it did, and but and that's why the game finished in 2 hours and 8 minutes.
Right.
Those first 4 innings were super fast.
I saw your post. The sun hadn't even set, and you're out east, and the sun hadn't even set yet.
it wasn't totally dark when I walked out of the ballpark.
That's
I mean,
unbelievable.
that's the crazy thing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just crazy.
That's too short. All right, we got more coming up. Jeff's got at least one more segment with us, and then he's going to go chase his story down. But coming up next, let's talk about the psychology of this team. It's something that we've been talking about since really the Fan Fest. I'll reprise that statement that made me think of this segment coming up next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Well, we want to tell you about our good friends at LinkedIn Jobs, small business owners, or even if you're a big business owner, please avail yourself to LinkedIn Jobs to get your job openings posted. Look, LinkedIn is 24/7, 365. It never closes, right? You may close, but LinkedIn is still out there getting job candidates in front of you to help make your business better. And you don't want to run a bad business. So if you need job candidates and you need them fast, LinkedIn Jobs is the place for you to go. This is what you do. You post your job. It can help you write job descriptions, get your jobs in front of the right people with the right candidates. You can do it for free, or you can pay to promote. Promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified applicants, and that's kind of where we come in. If you can post your first job for free at linkedin.com/Rangers. That's linkedin.com/Rangers to post your first job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now, over there at LinkedIn, I don't know if anybody's using Mando, but I tell you could use some Mando right now.
Yeah.
Me and everybody in Baltimore. Today's supposed to be the worst of the 3 days the Rangers are in town. Yeah, hot, sweaty. Yeah. You just go outside and you start sweating, sitting in that open air press box with no air circulation. You sweat a lot. So that means that male body parts might get a little stinky. The pits, the belly button, the balls, the taint. They like to call it crundles, butt cracks. All that stuff can smell when you get into weather like this. But if you have some Mando, which is a whole body deodorant, man, you can get it everywhere. You can put it everywhere. John puts it on his feet. So anyway, help yourself out, help the people around you out, and use Mando. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. Solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. And if you use the code DLS at shopmando.com, you get $5 off a starter pack. That equates to 40% off. Shopmando.com.
Yeah, I forgot about that. A valuable lesson that I taught everybody earlier a month or so ago. Don't forget the feet. You got to wipe those feet down, too. All right, I haven't forgotten. Way back at FanFest, Jeff, I had never heard, in all my years of covering Major League Baseball, I had never heard a description of why it is so difficult to be a Major League Baseball player, quite like the one I heard from Chris Young at FanFest, which was, on a given day, you might be the worst player in the stadium, and you know it. And you leave the ballpark that day knowing I was the worst guy on that field today. And you've got to come back to the field the next day knowing I'm the best player in this place, right? And any of us, if you try to think about that, even after a bad day at work or, a bad day, a round of golf, or if you play recreational sports, right? To take that, to go from I'm the worst to I'm going to be the best today is a very difficult thing to do mentally, mental gymnastic-wise. And so I just wonder right now as I look at this, if these players are able to make that leap. It almost feels like, Jeff, and maybe not day to day as much as even in the game, right? If you had a really bad at-bat in the first inning and the third inning and the fifth inning, can you have a good at-bat in 7, 8, or 9? And will your mental capacity allow you to? Again, the 22 pitches I mentioned in the final 3 innings last night seem to suggest that the Rangers can't. And there was a quote that also triggered me on this. Josh Young, or rather, Wyatt Langford was quoted as saying after the game, yeah, when you haven't done anything, in the first 4 or 5 innings, it's kind of hard to go into the 7th, 8th, and 9th and know we got this, we got this, we got this. So anyway, thoughts about the psychology of this team. You were there in the clubhouse after the game.
Yeah, not a lot of guys around. And a lot of it is that the first day in Baltimore is always the crab feast. So some of them were eating, but it plays out what Wyatt said, but also there's a thought that by your 4th at bat you should have everything figured out. Well, by your 4th at bat, they might be on their 4th pitcher, and we talk about how the Rangers are playing a lot of close games and have kind of put a tax on their high leverage arms. Well, the other team is using its high leverage arms in those games as well. And so the Rangers are seeing terrific pitching
right
throughout a game. Now, but they should be able to understand individually how they're being pitched. If you're getting a steady diet of changeups and they're having success with those pitches, probably going to see some more changeups. It's so I think there is some of that. But I think that this team also just needs to go out and win one, have a big comeback. Maybe that would change the things. But if they're already beaten mentally, and 6-0's hard to come back from.
It is.
Let's not pretend.
Agreed.
Here, but
agreed.
A 2-run deficit shouldn't be all that much, and the Rangers have only come back from one of those this season.
Right.
One run, not shouldn't be hard. And maybe that's where it comes into manufacturing runs. It's stealing bases. Late in the game, these high leverage relievers usually are easy to run against. Big leg kicks, do a terrible job holding runners, but you got to get a runner on, and it's got to be the right runner, and they just haven't been able to do that. So that's pretty interesting from Wyatt, and maybe you can say it's disappointing, maybe it's just refreshing honesty, but it's something that needs to be tackled. And the Rangers, the Bruce Bochy said last night that we're throughout the entire game we're saying let's go, let's fight. This one's not over yet. You still got we still got a chance. All of this stuff, and if the team is in this mindset, if Wyatt is speaking for everybody, then there's a problem, and they need to get this corrected somehow. And I think the best way to do it is to pull one out. But last night I think it was hot. They were shut down by shut down completely by the starter, and they probably wanted to get out of there and eat their crab, go back to the hotel and soak in air conditioning. So I don't know if that was the best time to ask him, but then again, the truth comes out in a lot of different ways, and so that's an interesting one, and definitely something that the team might want to look into.
Yeah, because he said when you're not hitting the whole game, it's hard to go up there in the 8th and 9th when you're down and just feel like we're going to start hitting now. It's one of those things where you've got to do it and then do a good job and start stacking really good at-bats together. And you can't say that's happened a lot. So it's truth. I mean, it's reality. He's acknowledging the same thing we've all seen. Now, the other side of that, that psychological equation, of course, is a guy who is trying to reverse this psychology. And that's a guy you all know, Bruce Bochy. So Bruce said after the game, I think we're headed in the right direction. When you have a dud like this, it doesn't look good. I'm the first to say that. You look flat. And I always say when you don't hit, you look flat. And we just couldn't get runners on base out there, which in some ways we've been saying over and over again, Jeff, that This is just like all the other games. Actually, there have been two problems offensively. There have been those games lately where they get a bunch of guys on. I think this was the Sunday game. They get a bunch of guys on and can't get them in. Or games like last night where they get hardly anybody on. Would they have 3 base runners last night? They get hardly anybody on. Of course, it's hard to get them in.
Yeah, I guess you'd rather have the former than the later, than the latter. At least giving yourself chances to get out there and get the big hit. And a lot of times, sometimes dadgummit, the guy you need to come up is buried 6 or 7 batters deep. And I completely understand how both are frustrating, but if they're giving themselves a chance, then maybe something's about to come through, and one guy will step up and get the hit. But I would think that a night like last night, where you don't even give yourself a chance, it would be far more frustrating than what happened Sunday in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the old line. So you're saying there's a chance, right? There wasn't much chance last night. Not enough chances, hardly any chances. Whereas on Sunday there were a lot more, and they just didn't take advantage of them. So you've got to give yourself the opportunity. You've got to give yourself the chance. And so anyway, I don't think the Rangers have been completely lacking in that department, at least not lately. And you were saying in that last segment, Jeff, how 9 guys are in a slump at the same time. And we've said that a lot during the course of the year. Of course, last night it definitely looked like 9 were in a slump. But the numbers say, Simeon's not in a slump as badly, or if at all, anymore, right? Garcia's in, I know it's a short sample, 17 games, 18 now, but not as bad, right? Guys are coming out of those slumps. They just didn't do it, or just got shut down, or just got whatever last night.
Yeah, and again, a good major league pitcher, or a major league pitcher who throws a lot of strikes, can get some stuff done. Is going to shut down a lot of teams, and that's what happened last night. But if the Rangers are that easy to pitch to, where 1 or 2 pitchers a series are doing that, then there's something that has to take place on the change front. And and it's true. Pitching is really, really good. But by gosh, and the team that the Rangers have put together, the cornerstone pieces of this lineup are all-stars. They're really good players. They're World Series MVPs and top 3 finishes in MVPs and things like that. And those guys are even caught in the funk. So I don't know if it's a philosophy thing, but you could you could have read between the lines that's why Brett Boone was hired, something like that. But it's just hard to believe that at the 80 game point, basically, that this is where this team is.
Yeah, it is, and it's been a continuing theme, and all they can do is, we know this, and even if there is, I'd never want to say quit in them. That's not really even what I'm implying. But even if there is a psychological hurdle to get over late in games, we know this team works so hard. And in fact, when Wyatt had to sit a week or so ago with the back, Boch was saying he's swinging too much. And this happened last year too, right? He's getting in the cage too much, and you're swinging too much when your lower back starts hurting. And so Boch told him, and the other guys, slow it down. There's only so much we can do. Don't go over swinging in the cage, which is a clear indication of how hard they want to work to get out of this.
Right. They don't like stinking. They want to be good. Unfortunately, they're not. And sometimes if you're working on the same thing and they're bad habits, bad habits. Corey Seager said it the other day, bad habits are hard to break.
Yeah.
So that's what he's trying to do. And I don't know how much Corey swings the bat. I know he doesn't take BP on the field, so he probably swings less than others. But sometimes you can work yourself, too much. What the definition of insanity, right? You keep making the same mistake over and over again. That's something. I mean, a full audit of this offense, which I'm guessing has taken place, is needed. I think it'll begin with kind of restructuring the guys. Too many of the same kind of hitter. I've said this before. Too many aggressive hitters. You gotta have some balance in that lineup and some guys who are gonna work a pitcher and give your team a chance to get some base runners on. But I don't know where they go from here. The trade deadline's coming. Maybe something's going on. I don't know, but it's something that has to change, and the hope isn't going to work.
Well, you take your break here, Jeff. Come back and join us if you find some news for us. We appreciate you as always. We'll be chatting with you again here in a few minutes under any circumstances. Next on the DLLS Rangers podcast, we appreciate all of your thoughts. I will get to those. Also, a little talk about tomorrow's starter, Jacob deGrom. It's all coming up. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. Oh, and let's talk about our friends at Empire today. The OG sponsor on the DLLS programming. We're so happy that they did go away for just a minute and came back stronger and better than ever. And we're proud of that, and we're happy to have them back. And you would be happy to have them as your flooring consultant, your flooring specialists, because that's all they do is flooring, and they do it better than anyone else. They've been doing it longer. They've pretty much invented all the products. Anybody else who has products out there that they're selling for cheaper probably means they're inferior. So, do yourself a favor and go to EmpireToday.com. If you do that, you will get $350 off your order if you order some floors. Forget not that you can take a picture of a floor and they can just put any floor, or a picture of a room, and they can put any floor you want on that room. EmpireToday.com/DLLS. Also, we remind you to avail yourself to Saturday Neon. College football season is coming up quick, and Saturday Neon makes the greatest, most dramatic statement you can make for your favorite college team, especially if you're inviting people over to watch, like especially one of those early season night games. You drag everybody into the man cave, you reach back and you flip on the Saturday Neon sign of your favorite team. People are going to go nuts. That's what they do. They make neon signs that are not real neon, not the kind that, if you hit it with a ping pong ball, it's going to explode and shoot neon gas into the house. These are LED lights, which means they last forever. They're fantastic. They're really not that expensive. You'll be surprised how cheap. Use the code DLLS at SaturdayNeon.com. You get 10% off your Saturday Neon sign. All right, so I appreciate the chat, and I'm going to run through a few things here and there. If we can, I'm going to pop these glasses on so I can see them well. Yeah, scouts in Frisco. I've heard this too. Our buddy John Moore was all over this, National League scouts. So absolutely that could imply, and don't Gallagher champ, spill it, Jeff. He doesn't have anything to spill yet, but he's working it. So there's no question that there are, but again, this time of year, I don't want you to read too much into that there are scouts there, because this time of year, everybody's scouting everybody. And what happens with scouts is they don't know a lot more than we necessarily know. They know a little more, but not necessarily a lot more. And in the case of the Rangers, I don't think anybody knows exactly yet what they're going to do at this trade deadline. It depends a lot on how this thing keeps developing and evolving over the next 5 weeks. So there's that, right? But there definitely are people. Now, one of the reasons that there are scouts there today, we'll talk about in the next segment. There's also a showcase game at Frisco today. In fact, it's happening right now. So we'll talk about that in the cleanup segment. But there's no doubt that is that is something to think about. Jeff's not exactly sure what the news coming out is going to be, but that's why he's over there chasing it. But about the team now, yeah, I mean, 47 run is exactly right. We need on-base percentage guys. That's what Jeff and I have been talking about for a while now, is that guys who know different ways to get on base and guys who work pitchers. I mean, if you think about how annoying and how lengthy the at-bats were for the Yankees and the Red Sox not too many years ago, and it was because they were up there working a pitcher. I'll tell you who was great at working a pitcher was Mark McLemore, because what he was always trying to do was get the pitcher off his rhythm. So if a pitcher's really going well, you try to get him off his rhythm, and then maybe you can take him to a point where he doesn't want to be. Make him throw a pitch where he doesn't want to be. He finally gets frustrated and throws it right down the middle, and take that, USOB, right? And the next thing you know, you have the advantage as a hitter. It just doesn't seem like Rangers hitters are doing some of those things that allow them to gain that advantage. Part of that is the way the game is taught today at the lowest of levels. It's the true outcome kind of situation. You get a walk, you get a hit. I mean, you get a walk, you get a home run, you get a strikeout, right? We don't need that mentality in the game, and especially at the major league level. And I think you see the teams that are having the most success are obviously combining some of that, but with a lot of the ability to work counts and work at bats. So to that point, we definitely need that. The fact is, Jim Rockford says somebody's got to step up and get hot, and we agree, Jim. And the reality is, we really believe, we talked about this yesterday, if that somebody is Corey Seager, well, then the Rangers have something, because Corey Seager, first of all, he will hit. Jeff, categorically said yesterday, Corey Seager is not the problem with this offense, and that's absolutely true. He's not. There's a lot of problems with this offense, and he is in a malaise right now. I don't even know at what point you take it past a slump, but he's not doing what he normally does. He's acknowledged it. He's working on it. But the reality is, if that guy gets back to being Corey Seager, it changes everything. The conclusion we kind of drew yesterday was that Corey Seager doesn't have an exponentially negative effect on the offense, but he can have an exponentially positive effect. And so that's a pretty good place to be. And eventually, I really do believe Corey Seager will get things turned around, and that will definitely help. Yes, you're right, Gallagher Champ. Mark has stepped up, and nobody has followed him. And maybe you're somewhat right. Some people have followed him. I don't know if Dlls necessarily followed him, but again, he doesn't have, as good as a Marcus Semien is, he doesn't have the Corey Seager effect. It's a very intangible thing that you just begin to believe more in yourself as a team when you've got a guy like Corey Seager sort of leading the way. It's similar to how the pitchers feel about Jacob deGrom. Last trip through the rotation, when Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter followed Jacob deGrom, it was fantastic. Now, it didn't have necessarily a great effect on Leiter, as it turns out, but Kumar Rocker pitched great. Kumar Rocker's got a 1.74 ERA since being recalled after, basically the last time he was sent down, it was punitive, right? It was, hey, you're not getting it done up here. We need to send you down and let you learn some more things about yourself and about the game. Injury necessitated his call up, and the next thing you know, he gets back up here, and we find out he's a quick learner. He's been doing all the things better that they wanted him to do. He's been holding runners better, no doubt about that. He's been much more attentive to the other duties of a pitcher, including, obviously, getting over to first base and backing up bases and things like that, running hard when he's got to back up third base. Those kinds of things have not gone unnoticed, and those are the kinds of things that really Kumar knew and was either just sort of letting slip through the cracks or becoming so frustrated by the results that he just kind of brain farted him, as we've said, for lack of a better word. But that 1.74 ERA against major league hitters since he came back, I'll grant you, and someone's going to put it in the chat, it's against the Chicago White Sox and the Pittsburgh Pirates, but they're major league hitters, and they are, and he's done the job at this level. So that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. We'll take that. I'm trying to see what else we've got here to talk about in the chat. Yeah, Seager needs to start laying off those sliders. I agree with that. It reminds him of Josh Hamilton. I want Corey to remind me of Josh Hamilton in many other ways too, right? I mean, again, Corey's a better day-to-day, hitter than just get the ball in play, get the ball out there than Josh was. But there's nobody more spectacular than Josh Hamilton was. So is Jeff back, you said? We got Jeff back. And so let's see if we can figure out what the news is. Jeff, what do you got?
Cody Bradford is going to have elbow surgery tomorrow. That will prevent him from pitching this season and probably a lot of next season. Everything seemed to be going fine. He's ready to go out for a rehab assignment, and I guess here within the last few days he felt something, and MRI was performed, and it showed some pretty significant damage that there's no working around here. So unfortunate for Cody. Chris Young held a conference call with media members. Turned out I think it was just me and Evan Grant asking questions. So I don't know if anybody else was on the call, but we're the only ones who asked questions. So when Rarity said I just broke news on Bradford, well, I think I just tweeted it before Evan did. So anyway, bad news there, because Cody's such a good guy, was having such a great spring, and it really kind of puts some questions quickly that come off the top of my head. You go back to spring training when he was injured, and it was, he's only going to be down 3 days. Then it's like, he's going to be down 5 to 7. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, he's not going to throw for 3 weeks. And so it was obviously more than they initially thought during spring training. Now, of course, you never want to have surgery. If there was a chance to avoid the operation, you try to take it. And it looked like everything was on the way back. I mean, they'd had scans since spring training, monitoring the situation. So there appeared to be some level of healing, but to what extent, and did they need to wait a little longer? These are all questions that I'm sure they'll review. And I had heard even in spring training from different people, it's like, well, I heard it was a Tommy John, and I was like, really? Because that's not what the team's saying. And so anyway, unfortunate because we all like Cody. Even though he went to Baylor, we like Cody, and wish the best for him.
It's the first thing that crossed my mind, Jeff. I think we probably did off air. We probably talked about those conversations that you had heard, and it. Anytime I hear elbow, of course, I think that, and that you have to sort of expect worst case scenario. I guess the only part of it that breaks my heart, and I don't know, we'll need to get Keith Meister on or something to try and ferret this out some, but why does it take this long and this much rehab and all of that to get this conclusion that seemed like it was going to be pretty obvious even from the beginning?
Well, yeah, I think you can kind of look back at the situations where it has worked out, where the rest and the rehab did work, even if it was temporary. Like last year, Garrett Cole had an injury in spring training, an elbow injury in spring training. He took the time off, rebuilt, and was available in July. Okay, and he pitched into the World Series, and was really, really good. And then he ramped up again this year, and boom, he had to have Tommy John surgery. So I just think that, and Cody's kind of the exception because he doesn't throw all that hard, but Keith always says you can't put a V8 into a Volkswagen Bug. You
Right.
You just can't do that. And the human body right now, the engine is these elbows and arms and shoulders that are throwing the ball 100 miles per hour and pronating their arms to get more movement on these designer pitches like the sweeper and the power changeup. And it, it it's just a recipe for disaster. So um, yeah, I bet Keith would come on. He came on
Yeah,
the
we might.
weekly show last year.
Yeah, we might need to ferret this out on an off day coming up or something, or yeah, maybe during the All-Star break. But we got more coming up. We'll continue this talk a little bit. I want to chat with Jeff and see what we think that means for like Jon Gray now. Does this need we need him back in the rotation instead of the bullpen? Things like this. Let's talk it all through. We'll get to the cleanup stuff as well. It's all coming up. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. Yeah, and we want to tell you about our special, our Die Hard special, $36 again. Scan that QR code and be surprised, or you won't be because you're listening now and you know it's $36. But if you happen to have not heard and you scan it and you're thinking, all right, I'm ready to pull the trigger on $80 or $79.99, check it out. You're going to save some money because right now it's $36. It's in honor of the NBA and the NHL drafts, which both are this week. The NBA draft starts tomorrow. It obviously seems completely clear and apparent that the Mavericks are going to draft Cooper Flagg. I hope they do so that the city does not get burned down. The American Airlines Center is out awfully close to our office here, so we don't need any fires starting by angry Mavs fans if they don't. I don't think there's any doubt that's going to happen. And it's going to be a really fun night around here. And Thursday will be fun, too. It's round 2 of the draft. Friday, round 1 of the NHL draft. And Saturday, round 2 of that draft. We're all over the coverage of all of it and bringing you so much content behind that paywall by all of our writers who do such a great job writing about these things. So anyway, we encourage you to become a diehard, alldlls.com/join, or simple QR code right there for a $36 deal to become a diehard. And also when you do, you'll get a free shirt that would not be unlike the one I have, the diehard shirt, right? I did it so I'd remind you and myself that we've got this diehard deal going. But the shirts, the jerseys, the hats are coming. You know, all the different merchandise we have is a nice reminder and a nice way for you to tell the world, hey, man, I listened to this DLLS. I think they're pretty good, and we know you're out there, and we know you think it, and we'd appreciate it if you would do that at store.allcitynetwork.com. All right, so that's the first question, Jeff. So do we feel like this changes the thought process and the approach to getting Jon Gray ready back to come? Is he more needed in the rotation now without Cody Bradford coming back than he is necessarily in the bullpen?
Jon Gray, that was a question I asked of Chris Young, and he said that Jon Gray is going to be stretched out to be a starter. I think now is that's kind of, you have to,
Yeah.
With the lack of starting depth, that's something that the Rangers need, and so Jon Gray needs to be stretched out. There's just no other way around it. Now, Chris Young did say that depending on where the team is at in terms of the depth at a certain point, or if they acquire starting help, then he could be shortened down. But it's a lot harder to stretch a guy out after he's been shortened down than to shorten a guy down after he's been stretched out. So I think that for now he's going to prepare to be a starting pitcher. So probably late July would be his timeline. If I'm just kind of trying to put the math together here, Tyler Mahle is going to have a second scan just to follow up on the first to make sure that any inflammation is out before he throws. So he's still looking like, All-Star break, right around there at the earliest, I would think. Jock Peterson is going to have a scan on his broken hand. He's not a pitcher, of course, but it'll be a 5-week scan, at which point they can determine which way to go. If it's not healed, he still has to wait. He's been working out. He's with the club on this road trip, but he hasn't done any baseball activities because his hand is still kind of in a little brace thing. So I mean, it's injuries are going to happen. They all know this. Everybody knows, and you try to prepare as best as possible to build up your depth. And right now, I genuinely do not know who the Rangers would call up if they had another injury to a starter that required an IL stint. I guess it would be Dane Dunning, who was here with the team and pitched pretty well last night. Really,
Yeah, he did.
Gave up the 1 run, but Bruce Bochy was really happy with the stuff it looked like it did back in 2023. And if that's the case, then you have a major league pitcher on your hands. Jake Latz probably is going to stay stretched out. I don't know that, when Eovaldi is back on Friday, I don't know that Latz will retain his rotation spot. I look at tonight as like a spot start, more so than just a guy who's going into the rotation. But he is stretched out. He can go to 5 or 6 innings tonight, theoretically. I mean, he's at that point. But after those two, it really is. Do you go down to Double-A? I think Cole Drake, the left-hander who's at Frisco, is going to get promoted soon to Round Rock. I think that's, I don't want to say imminent, but now that the first half is over in Frisco, I think that he is a likely candidate to be promoted a level, and then he would be on the radar, I guess, if he has some success. Mitch Bratt probably won't be far behind him. Also a Double-A, also left-handed. They're just different how they go about it. Cole Drake is more of a power pitcher, whereas Mitch, who throws in the middle 90s, but he's more of a change-up slider guy. But he does get a lot of swing and miss with his fastball when it's elevated. So we'll see how this plays out, but it's a definite dent in the team's plans. I mean, they were expecting Cody to be ready here in a couple weeks, and now it's going to be, it may not be till the start of 2027, really.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And you feel worst of all this said and talking ramifications, but as you said at the outset, you feel worst of all for Cody Bradford, who's obviously wants nothing more than to be out there pitching for the hometown team, kid from Aledo, Texas. So that is not great news. Mista asks in there, and I don't know if is it 100% confirmed yet, Jeff, that deGrom is going to start tomorrow.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yes, he threw his bullpen yesterday. deGrom is a 2 days before start bullpen guy. A lot of guys are 3 days before. He's a 2-day. So he is pitching tomorrow. Let's just go ahead and it hasn't officially been announced, but basically everybody's told me that he is. So that's why I wrote what I wrote. If you're a diehard, you can go check it out. They're opting to go with deGrom against the Orioles rather than save him for the Mariners because, as Bruce Bochy said, he wants Jacob deGrom to pitch as much as possible, yeah. which is kind of a 180 from where they've been, trying to massage his way through the season and give him extra days. He's going to be pitching on normal rest, which is 4 days rest, which he's done probably, 150 times in his career, if not more. But he's only done it 4 times this season. So that's an indication that the Rangers, as we said from the top, understand the urgency here with the stretch they're going through and where they are, that they want to take Jacob deGrom and have him throw whenever is possible. And so if he starts Wednesday, he would have an extra day because they have an off day Thursday before his next start, which would be in the next Baltimore series, the one at home. I think it'd be around July 1. Then he would pitch possibly against the Padres. If not the Padres, then he'd pitch against the Angels and the Astros to close out the first half. And, those Ron Washington-led Angels are kind of pesty right now. And then the Astros are the Astros. So while deGrom may miss the Mariners, he should hit on a couple AL West opponents here before the All-Star break.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely something, and the Rangers will need him certainly in those games. All right, some of our cleanup items on the thing include Derek Holland has officially become the volunteer pitching coach at UT Dallas for next year. So, we love Derek, and he has a lot, obviously, of enthusiasm and joy and love of the game and knowledge. And I love that he's going to share it with some kids.
Yeah, he is officially retired now. He was kind of hanging on there. He'd had an opportunity. Speaking of Ron Washington, when Wash got hired by the Angels, Wash helped Derek get an interview with the organization to maybe be an A-ball pitching coach. Ultimately, Derek decided that wasn't for him at the time. He helped with a college this last season. At Northlake College.
I think it was.
I might be saying that wrong. But anyway, he seems like this is what he wants to do. He's committed. A volunteer job. I'm sure UT Dallas baseball doesn't have a ton of money to throw his way, so I'm sure he's helping him out a little bit there. He doesn't need it. So, but he's invested. He wants to coach, and he's got some lessons. He was a hot shot prospect. He dealt with injuries. He was a pretty good starter there for a little while. Had the off the field injury with his knee, whether he fell down the stairs or was hurt playing hockey, as a lot of people suspected. And then his career went the other way. So he can teach these guys some lessons, and he knows how to pitch. He learned from Mike Maddox. So he's learned from the best.
We've talked a lot about Patrick Corbin in this show, but do you know the story of Patrick Corbin? He's actually pitching in Frisco right now as a part of these. He's pitching for Tulsa in Frisco right now as a part of the MLB Pipeline Prospect Showcase. And this young man got hit in the eye, in his right eye, with a line drive on the mound last year, and became permanently blind in his right eye. The Dodgers organization. He's moved himself all the way up to the 29th prospect in the Dodgers organization. The top 30, Jeff, are part of this MLB Pipeline Prospect Showcase. So he, as a part of that, is pitching today at really the highest level he's gotten, but he's climbing the ranks. This is a heck of a story.
Yeah, and I guess people who followed the Rangers for a while probably remember Drew Robinson, who attempted to take his own life and fortunately failed. But the bullet cost him the use of one of his eyes, and he was an outfielder and a hitter, and he tried to come back. But I can't imagine that it's easy to hit with just one eye. People are having enough trouble doing it with two. I'm sure there are some challenges here as well, but maybe it's a little easier to pitch. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but that's a cool story. He did pitch today.
Is he done?
The game is going on right now. He allowed one run in 5 innings. His replacement hit a Rangers outfielder, Kleber Rodriguez, in the head. But he was able to go to first base. Or Keeber, not Kleber. I don't want to come up with Kleber. I guess Ruiz from the Nationals. Anyway, 4-0 Frisco here in the 6th. So things have fallen apart since Copen has left the game.
Yeah, well, he pitched well, and to your point, he said really the biggest problem he has is when there's a runner on second, with no right eye and no peripheral vision over there. But, sure. Getting to the plate and all that stuff isn't a problem for him. Anyway, inspiring story. Keep an eye on that name. We will keep you updated on anything that happens with this team, as we did today. Jeff breaking the news because he's got those quick fingers. Jeff breaking the news. about Cody Bradford. That's not great news. We're sorry about that. We are back tomorrow for a post-game edition. Jeff's there tonight and tomorrow night in Baltimore. We'll see you then. DLLS Rangers Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.